I would tell people, look for those golden nuggets of the world,
Yeah.
like the people who have this like sincere desire to help other people for no monetary reason.
So you want to make an impact. You're thinking about starting a business, sharing your voice. How do women do it that handle motherhood, family, and still chase after those dreams? Well, listen each week as we dive into the stories of women who know. This is Call Me CEO. I can't tell you how many times I've had one of my kids come up to me and say, I want to do a lemonade stand. I really want to make some money. And while that is such a fun way to make a couple bucks, maybe even 20 if you're lucky, creating a sustainable business as a kid can be hard. Today's guest is all about how she was able to turn something into a side street hustle, if you will, into a very successful, thriving, and growing business. So if you have ever wanted to teach your child how to be entrepreneurial, you are not going to want to miss this episode. This is Katie Sterling with Floss Cotton Candy. Welcome back, everyone, to Call Me CEO. This is Camille Walker, your host, and today we have Katie Sterling on the call with us. She is the owner and CEO of Floss Cotton Candy, which was a business that she started with her kids. In fact, it was actually her kids' idea. And so today we're going to be talking about their incredible journey and how she has been able to instill lessons of entrepreneurship with her children, learning along the way. So Katie, thank you so much for being on this call with us today.
Thanks for having me, Camille.
Now, introduce yourself to our audience. Where are you from? Tell us about your kids. I'm so excited to get the nitty gritty of your journey because I only know like little bits. So I'm like, I can't wait.
Yeah, so I'm Katie Sterling. I grew up in Cache Valley, Utah. That's where I currently live now also. So I've lived quite a few places in between, but I'm happy to be back here. I have 4 kids, 2 girls and 2 boys. My oldest is now 14. They kind of are like 2 years apart. So it goes 14, 12, 10, 8.
Mm-hmm.
My oldest is actually the one who started Floss. She was the most involved. She is a spender. And so she always wants to buy things. And that's how the business pretty much got its beginnings was for my 30th birthday, I asked for a big cotton candy machine on a cart. And my husband, I don't know, I'm just kind of like a partier at heart. We invited the whole neighborhood over and made cotton candy for everyone. And the years following that, my daughter, as she was like 6, 7, she just wanted to buy everything at the store. She's definitely a consumer at heart.
Yes.
And
I have a kid like that. My oldest is the exact same way. He's like, money just burns a hole in his pocket.
Oh yeah. As soon as they have it, it's like, what can I buy with this?
Yeah.
So we lived on a road next to a park. And this was actually back when we lived in Arizona for a while. And I just said, Libby, you know what? We've got this cotton candy machine. Not very many people have, a big cotton candy machine. Why don't you take it to the park or make it ahead of time and just sell it on one of the half days? They used to have days where in their school district where kids would get out every Wednesday at like 1. So she started doing that, and she kind of started this little following where they knew if it was a half day, they could go buy cotton candy from Libby. So she'd come back with like $60,
Wow.
after a few hours. And that was a lot of money for a 7-year-old. So she started recruiting her little sister, the other neighbor kids. And that was the beginning of earning money with cotton candy. And I saw that she was taking responsibility more for her purchases. I had a way to kind of rein her in by saying, well, do you have any money? And if she would say no, then the wheels would start turning about how, what day she could sell cotton candy or, anyway, so that went on for a couple of years. And then we moved to Cache Valley, and we lived on an even better road that goes up to Utah State University.
Ooh, yes.
And it was summertime. Yeah, it was summertime, and the two girls knew the drill already, but they kind of just started this weekly cotton candy stand, kind of going up to Aggie Ice Cream on that road. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Utah State. And they were coming back with like $120, $130, just kind of, every time they'd go out, they were making more and more money. And a neighbor noticed them and said, your girls need to enter this child entrepreneur fair that's coming to Logan. And I was like, oh, that would be interesting. And we did some research, and it was put on by the Libertas Institute, which they have a series of books called the Tuttle Twins. And we didn't really know about the books when we did the fair yet, but they entered the fair. And one of the things I challenged them to do was, instead of just doing regular cotton candy, that they have like something that no one had ever seen before. Like what if we could do butterbeer cotton candy, or what if we could do like carameled apple, or I think we came up with 50 flavors together, and they designed their booth and their poster, and they took a loan from me for like the tent and the setup. And at the end of the fair, they were able to buy all the equipment and their school clothes. And, like it was just a huge success.
Wow.
It was really, and that's when they got their first Tuttle Twins books, which is, it's kind of like, it's a great series that introduces principles of entrepreneurship, or, just taxes and stuff like that. And
I'm sorry. I was going to say, I am familiar with those books because one of my dear friends is Brittany.
Oh, okay.
Whose husband, which Brittany has been on the show. She does the Get Out There Girl. Her husband has helped with the marketing for the Tuttle Twins. I think I need to get my hands on these books. They sound amazing.
They are amazing. And they also have not just the kids' illustrated books, but now they have, middle school level, high school level, almost like a curriculum. If,
Awesome.
They have a TV show, a YouTube channel. It's been really beneficial for me to be learning these things alongside my kids kind of at the same time, and to be like, why didn't I ever know this? But to be taught in a kid format. Yeah. So that it's not like a college business book, right? Yeah. Like it's very basic, very simple. Another book that kind of inspired me around the same time was the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. I don't know if you've read that.
Yes.
And I just was like, oh, I never really knew about assets and liabilities. And I want my kids to know about this, and why, some people think the dream is just to have a really big primary home. And that's like, kind of like what everyone thinks rich people want, right? And it was really interesting for me to read that book and to realize how cash flow works, and what's a liability and what's an asset, and how I wanted my kids to know the difference so that they didn't put all of their money into liabilities. So that all of those books kind of like came into my life at the same time. And when they did so well at the Children's Entrepreneur Fair, I thought, this has got to be the best opportunity I'm ever going to get to teach my kids about a business. And so we created an LLC and came up with an original plan of what Floss Cotton Candy would be, which is nothing like it is today. This was pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And we just kind of went in. We started, and it took all of these twists and turns, and it came out better than I ever could have planned at first.
So talk to me a little bit about how you get from like the entrepreneur fair to having packaged. I have never seen packaged like cotton candy cakes the way you have them. Like they are so cute, and they are so fun to serve at a party. And like, who doesn't like cotton candy? I feel like it is such a fun way to serve a sweet something in any kind of setting. Like it is just such a fun idea. So talk me through some of those ideations of like how you got from selling on the corner to having these beautiful packaged cotton candy cakes.
Yeah, it's been 3 years. The cakes are really recent. So that was something that came about after, so many steps.
Mm-hmm.
The first steps we took, we thought we'd be an event business, kind of like we would go do parties, or like we got into some college basketball games, and then we got into college football games, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, that was like the only place where cotton candy could fit in. So we tried those. We realized, it wasn't really the lifestyle we wanted. Wasn't even really the way that I thought the business was even going to survive doing that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because it just didn't fit my lifestyle mostly. It was a
Yeah.
great way for the kids to get out and meet people, but it was a very like, you had to be there weekends, evenings, that
Yeah.
kind of a thing. So for us, for our family, for my kids, it just was not working out. We were able to put a commercial kitchen in a spare bedroom in our home, which was when a local grocery store called Lee's Marketplace. I don't know if you have a Lee's
Mm-hmm.
near you, but their headquarters are in Cache Valley. And they said if we could package it commercially, then they'd be willing to try us out in their store.
Interesting.
So it was interesting to find out like what you need for a commercial kitchen, what the requirements are, how you can have one in your own home versus a cottage kitchen. I learned so much about, so much more about the food world than I ever pictured myself knowing about
Yeah.
before. But we were able to do that and package it in a way where it could be sold commercially. And we were only in one grocery store, their Smithfield location, when COVID hit. So all of a sudden we went from 90% events business to how else can Floss continue? And the clear answer was grocery.
Yeah.
So it had done so well in the Smithfield location that they were willing to put us in all of their stores.
Wow.
And that's really when Floss took off. Like that's when it became an actual like, okay, this could be a
So
real business.
talk to me about production going from one grocery store to many. Are you fulfilling all these orders yourself, or how is this happening?
So for the one grocery store, I had a sister of mine who all of her kids were in school. She kind of wanted a part-time job.
Mm-hmm.
So I would figure out how to do it and train her, and train my kids would do a lot of the labeling, packaging, shipping side of things. So luckily my sister was so on board with being kind of like our little cotton candy chef. And she went from pretty much running that part of it by herself. And then as we grew into more and more stores, we just had to find more family members or friends that needed a job, and people we could train. Kind of became this little semi-related team of people fulfilling all these orders. And now we have moved the commercial kitchen out of our personal home, and it's in, like a 1,200 square foot area. And we have a small team of people who that's what they do. They make cotton candy.
How did you get the idea to make a cotton candy cake? Like, I think that is such a clever, beautiful, fun, like party idea.
Yeah. A lot of it came from just figuring out how to make cotton candy shelf stable for stores in general,
Mm-hmm.
And then I started thinking of the possibilities of ways we could package the cotton candy in different shapes and forms, and what would be appealing to people, what wouldn't. And my brother, for one of his birthdays, just said, "Oh, I love your grapefruit flavor. I wish I could have like a whole cake of it,
Oh.
And I got some stuff just out of my kitchen even that was kind of like I thought might resemble a cake, like the shape. And we made him the first ever, at least first cotton candy cake that we had ever made was in his honor for his birthday. And after that, the wheels started turning, and I was like, oh, this could be really cute. This could be fun. If we could figure out how to how to get the cotton candy to stay in the cake form.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So with
yeah,
where
that's
you are now with your, and I want to try the grapefruit. That sounds amazing.
it is
With,
really good. Yeah.
yeah. With where you are now in your business and your kids very much being the leaders of this. I love, anyone listening to this can relate to your kids saying, I want to do a lemonade stand. Like that's what everyone thinks. I want to do a
Yeah.
lemonade stand. Or I have someone down the street who they did a cotton candy stand. Or I have someone who did, like a candy vending machine type stop where it's just
Right.
treats, I love that this came from an idea that any kid could relate to, that this is like, yeah, I want to sell something, but it became such a unique product. So what is their involvement now? And what do you think they've learned along the way? Is this going to be a family business that grows forever? Like where's your mind and your headspace right now?
I know. I've thought that myself. Like, where is Floss going? Where is it going to be in 5 years? And I have to keep remembering where I thought it was going
Yeah.
the first year.
Yeah.
And like the world events that have occurred since then.
Oh my gosh.
And so I have to be really fluid in my thinking.
Yeah.
I have to kind of take it baby steps, like one day at a time.
Smart.
And for my kids' involvement, now that we're in like 100 grocery stores, I have to be really careful that I'm teaching them the principles and not locking them into a trap. So the thing I've talked to my kids about is, okay, we now have an opportunity for you to earn money whenever you want. They've been trained in all of the positions, especially my two girls. And I just say, so my oldest is 14, my youngest is 12. They're both in competitive sports. They both, I want them to have a completely normal childhood.
Yeah.
So the way we have done their schedule is, there's certain things that you do need to attend. Like we were invited by the Libertas Institute to speak to some of at a fundraiser event. And I said, these are like really important events that the founders should go to. You should tell your story. They kind of know when mom's like, okay, you need to be here this day and be working. And then the day-to-day stuff, one of the things I'm the most proud is I've taught them how to hand off the hats of the company to different people.
Awesome.
So that they don't have to be at work every day. That's one of the most important parts about being a CEO is that you let go of responsibility. So we've actually created the business now where I don't even have to go in every day. They don't have to go in every day. Like our goal is passive income where it's just set up in such a structural way that we get to work when we want to.
Yeah.
Or when we absolutely, need to for like we have team members who are related to each other that will go on vacation together. And then we know we need to step in because it's our turn to do that. But to teach them, it's not healthy to have a business where you wear all of the hats if you're trying to scale it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I've tried to teach them that balance. They know that they love that our family owns a business, but they don't resent the business because it's not like they're slaves to it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Which I think in childhood, there's small doses go a long way. And that was something I wanted to be really careful of is that I didn't drown them. I didn't want to turn them off to entrepreneurship by, ruining their lives with it, if that makes sense.
No. Oh my gosh. I'm listening to this and thinking that could easily be a scenario for someone where they get swept up in the busyness of it all and kind of get lost in what really matters and what doesn't. And I think that's beautiful that you've been able to create boundaries of, no, I want you to be a kid. And these are the positions of the business. And this is all a part of it, which a part of me is like, I wonder, because there are a lot of, not necessarily kids that are entrepreneurs with product, but there are family businesses all over of all different varieties. And I'm like, how do you even figure out the ownership of that and like how it develops as they grow? And maybe that's something, like you said, it just comes at a step at a time. So as for yourself and your husband, is that as this being a family business, what was he doing before? And have you completely switched gears to this now?
My husband's always been very much out of the picture with the business. He's
Hmm.
like, this is your thing. Now, that being said, he's super helpful when I ask him to
Okay, cool.
participate. But
Yeah.
he's an endodontist, so he does root canals. So
Okay.
that's a big reason why we named
That's
it Floss.
hilarious.
I
Oh my
know.
gosh. Okay. I was actually going to ask you, where did the name come from?
Yeah, it's because our kids started a sugar business and their dad's a root canal specialist. So I was like, this
Oh
is
my gosh.
funny. This is hilarious. We've got to name it Floss to tie all the loose ends together. Like
Yes.
it's so silly. And our claim to loving cotton candy that kind of like justifies the dental side is cotton candy does have the least sugar per volume of any treat because it's like 98% air,
Oh,
right?
that's so
So
funny.
the rest of it's all sugar, but it's like, well, you know, it's just some funny thing we came up with to justify it. But really it just comes down to that we love sugar in our family.
Yeah.
We totally love
Oh, I
sugar.
love that so much. I love that it's something that he's like, yeah, I'll support you. And I'm still doing my thing over here. And your girls are learning so much from it. Now that you're at the place where you are now, what is the number one thing that you look at and you think, oh man, I'm so glad that they're learning this thing?
I think the main thing is that you can create value from something that you love
Mm,
and that you can be your own boss.
yeah.
The way to create value when I was growing up that I thought was be an A student,
Hmm.
like be a good employee, which I'm not saying these aren't important things. They are
Sure.
important things. Just kind of like a people pleaser mentality of like, you need to fit in to the mold that someone puts you in. And that is how you become successful. And the beautiful thing I think about entrepreneurship is if you see a value and you want to go for it and you can create value in the world, there's no limit to what you can do, how you do it. I just want my kids to know that they can create their own success in the world and they don't have to follow someone else's plan of success, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
Absolutely, it makes sense. That was such a beautiful answer. Like, I'm just over here, like, yes, because I think we do sometimes. I know as a kid, I did. I thought very much in a linear way of these are the steps to success. This is what I have to give the world. This is what you do. Where an entrepreneurial mindset is different than that. It's looking for gaps of a need or a service or something that you can provide in a way that possibly isn't even available or exists in that way, which absolutely is what you do. And I think that that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think that is the biggest lesson I've learned and my kids have learned. And in our defense, my husband has since started his own practice in endodontics after we started our business.
Wow.
And I think for him, he looked at us like, oh, he's less of a risk taker.
Mm,
And I think he saw things that he was like, I wish a practice was like this. I wish, that I could kind of say how things go. And since we started our business, he's started his business. And now
cool.
it's kind of like the ice has been broken, right? Like it's like,
Mm,
okay, we know it's not scary anymore. Because I
wow.
think that's the biggest thing about starting a business is the unknown and the what ifs. There's a lot of those that can get in your way. And there's different ways to start. And our business is very unique that we weren't starting our business for our main source of income.
Hmm.
I do think that what made it a lot more easy for me to do all the trial and error with my kids and um, to be way more open to mistakes.
Yeah.
And I don't think I would have done that had I been the primary breadwinner with this business that I was starting.
Hmm.
So I could see how it could get tricky in other scenarios for sure.
Yeah.
But we were fortunate where we were able to experiment a little bit.
I love that. And I think there is a big piece to that because even in what I do in creative space and things, coaching and all the things that I'm doing online, I was able to start as a blogger making no money for the first few years because my husband had a job that was more the traditional, consistent, we have insurance and food on the table kind of thing.
Right.
And so I think that's really, very self-aware, to point that out and to say we had space to experiment and to give this a go. In fact, before we started this conversation, I was referencing an interview that I had done with a woman who interviewed entrepreneurs all over the world, but not any entrepreneur. It was child entrepreneurs. And she said, I was really curious to see, and this is an interview that you can look back on. I will look in the notes or look in the episodes and put it in the notes so that you can see which one I'm referencing. But she said, I was really curious to see what the common formula was for entrepreneurs being successful as children. That she specifically was interviewing not only the child entrepreneur, but the parents as well. And she said, what was really interesting in my findings was that very often there was only one entrepreneur in the family of like however many kids there were. And that it wasn't necessarily that the parents were entrepreneurs, but that the person that was the entrepreneur and found the success had the devoted support and love from the parent. So it wasn't necessarily that they had to have a specific personality type or that they had to be raised by entrepreneurs or that all the siblings were entrepreneurs, but just very much a consistency of love and support. And she said, it's really interesting because, even within the same family, there was that person that was really driven to the entrepreneurship route where others were like, yeah, no, thanks. Like, I don't want that uncertainty, or I would rather go this way. So I think that that's really awesome that you've been able to tap into that desire that your children had and love them and support them and build something so beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it would be miserable for anyone to be told what they should or shouldn't do with their life, if that makes sense. And I was really clear with that with my kids that I can only imagine if my parents would have expected me to go down the same road as them with their careers, right? And how different I am from my parents and all of my siblings. And that I could see entrepreneurship being so exciting for so many people and so terrifying for a whole different group of people. But for me personally, it has been something that I love so much. I definitely want my kids to know that how to do it and that it's an option. Whether they choose to pursue that for the rest of their lives or not will totally be up to them.
Yeah.
But for them to even have that as I've got the tools in my tool belt where if I have a great idea one day, I can pursue it, because I feel like both my husband and I were really scared at first to even create an LLC, like just the little steps that prevent so many people from entering the business world because they have no clue what they're doing.
Yeah. So. Yeah. And I agree with you. I wish there was a little more, and maybe hopefully this will change in the near future with entrepreneurship and education in general, that there can be a bigger embrace and widespread thought of what that can look like. And even just teaching those fundamental keys of how to set up an LLC or your EIN or any of those things, because I'm coaching women in business. And for those that are starting their virtual assistant businesses, those are some hurdles that they're like, I have never even heard of that. Like, where do I start? And so I think that having a mentor like you, or for other people, a mentor that can help you through those steps, honestly, those first few steps are some of the biggest, but then you look back and you're like, oh, that really wasn't a big deal. I just needed to decide and take those, fill out those forms, and it was done. Like, I did it.
Right. And I really admire the mentors who that is their passion in business. I had one, my husband's business professor from BYU, named John Richards, he was willing, so we were living in Arizona at the time when I started Floss, and he was willing to take a break out of his family vacation. They were staying at the Great Wolf Lodge, and they all came out of the swimming area to taste test my cotton candy.
Oh my gosh.
His kids, his grandkids.
Of course they did. They're like, heck yeah.
30, but just thinking absolutely no reason for him to say yes to
Yeah.
this. And he invites me to come over. They step out of the swimming pool area and like take the time to like, I mean, I was so small, like so small in my business. And he spent so much time with me that day in such a kind, like non-manipulative way
Mm,
that I would tell people, look for those golden nuggets of the world.
yeah.
Like the people who have this like sincere desire to help other people for no monetary reason.
I love that.
It was just, and then I've met other people who just have bumped into, or that you can tell that is not what they're there for,
Yeah.
and that's fine too. But to find the people who genuinely want to help and care, um, that care about people starting a business, it's a gift that some people have. And I was lucky enough to run into one that was very encouraging, just the nicest people ever. It was
That's
really
awesome.
helpful for me.
Very cool. Well, I want to ask you just a couple questions to wrap this up. The first, and this is maybe, I don't know, because we haven't talked a lot about your sons. So I'm curious
Mhm.
about the effect that the business has had on them and if they're interested in it / motherhood for you in that regard. And then I'll follow up with number 2. So first, I'd love to hear about that for your sons.
Yeah, for sure. They were 3 and 1,
Oh, they're
or
just tiny
they
babies.
were they were. So when
Yeah.
it started, they were like 2 and 4, I think, is when,
Yeah.
and it was just like they were the taste testers, right?
Yeah.
Like very little. But they definitely are learning through like osmosis, if that makes
Mm,
sense. They invent names of flavors for us.
cute.
They go to the grocery stores and help us stock sometimes. They love wearing their Floss gear to school and telling
Mm,
everyone that their family owns Floss. Like I feel like they probably don't remember the creative process as much as my girls do.
sure.
But they definitely have like their own little jobs within Floss. So
Yeah.
now that they're 7 turning 8 and almost 10, they kind of get to do the beginner stuff that my girls are doing at first. Like they're too young to make it still especially in like the more like the setting we have it in now. But every summer they'll take like our cotton candy that's either out of season um or something's like the colors off, something like that, like the reject cotton candy. They'll take it out to the road and they'll have little cotton candy sales every summer.
Cute.
They do like 3 or 4 or 5 of those. And people know now, like when they
That it's
drive,
coming.
there's the Floss kids,
Oh, cute.
So they still have their stands and our kids all know that they can label whenever they want to earn money, they can label the cotton candy. I think for the boys, neither of my boys are huge spenders. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So the conversations haven't been coming up nearly as young as it was with my 2 girls.
Wow.
But they also are just kind of like in it, they're born in it and just kind of listening to us talk about it. And, but it's definitely the business is definitely more oriented around my girls. So it'll be interesting to see if the day comes where we find something that's more something my boys came up with. I hadn't really thought of that.
Yeah. I mean, I just look at this and think you are still, I could just, even just from what it's become in the last 2 years, can you imagine like what's possible into the future? So
Right.
I'm curious because maybe we could do a follow-up episode in a couple years' time.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to hear your vision of what you think that could look like.
Yeah. I feel like grocery has been a huge part of Floss. I can't ever imagine it going away from grocery.
Mm-hmm.
It's created to be a gift and party favor. So that was our intent when we made it. So specialty stores also do really well.
Mm.
I mean, I can see anywhere from like 4 packs in Costco, right? To like, to just expanding into the beyond Utah grocery stores.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so many markets. I mean, I think of even like California, Vegas, Arizona. It's really the bottleneck is production and facility size, stuff like that. Yeah. So one thing I'm really, really careful about is not letting it prevent me from living the life I want to live, if that makes sense. I still like to be there when my kids get home from school, and I still like to have my weekends with my family. And so, whereas if someone else were growing it besides me, there would probably be a lot more rapid growth with it.
Yeah.
And so, for me, it's just kind of taking the plunge for the next step to have more production, because I know as soon as we produce more, there's plenty of places that would love to have it.
For real. Well, I love that you have such a clear understanding of your values, of how you want to be spending your time, the kind of mom you want to be, and what this product can do to bring happiness to other people, but most importantly, happiness to yourself. And I think that is beautiful. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I can't wait to see what you do with it. And already I'm just cheering you on from the sidelines, and I'd love to meet your girls. I think it'd be really fun. I should have had them on here too. That'd be fun to see their cute faces.
Well, thank you. Yeah, they're spunky little girls. They're fun. Yeah. And I'm excited to see where it goes too. I don't think if I would have placed a bet 3 years ago, I would have never, ever guessed that it would have been this successful. So it is exciting. I feel really blessed that way. And anyway, I think that it's just a really fun family business to have, and just such an educational tool.
Yeah.
If anything but that, it's been successful just to teach my kids the lessons I've learned along the way. So
that's wonderful. Well, please tell everyone where they can find you and support you online.
Yeah. So our website is flosscottoncandy.com. And then we're on Instagram at flosscottoncandy. If you live in the Utah, Idaho area, we're in quite a few grocery stores. We're in Harmon's, Lee's, Kent's, Stokes, Macy's, like all the AFS grocery stores in Utah and some outside. But we have all those listed on our website too. So
awesome. Well, thank you again. And of course, we'll link to all of those in the show notes below. And thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Camille.
Hey, if you're listening to this episode and wondering, how am I going to create a sustainable business working as a busy, busy mom? Look no further than my 60 Days to VA program, where I share with you how you can create a sustainable business at your own schedule, working to your skill set. I have so many busy entrepreneurs who are coming to me constantly looking to offload some of their stress and needing to bring on extra help so that they can grow their business. So whether you're looking to hire a virtual assistant or you're wanting to start your own business that has flexibility and the ability to grow, reach out to me at camillewalker.co. You can also schedule a free discovery call with me, and I'd be happy to go through it with you and see if it would be a good fit for you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I really appreciate your support. Hey CEOs, thank you so much for spending your time with me. If you found this episode inspiring or helpful, please let me know in a comment and a 5-star review. You could have the chance of being a featured review on an upcoming episode. Continue the conversation on Instagram at Call Me CEO Podcast. And remember, you are the boss.